Welcome everybody to New Heart, New World. I'm Rasika Manjari and thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm going to talk about controlling the freak. Now you'll see what I mean by that in a moment, but you may have heard the expression that expectation is the mother of disappointment. Now we may have all experienced this at some level or another. For example, if we're working on a huge project, and a work project for example, and we have invested a lot of time and energy and effort into it, and we may even think like, well, you know, boy, someone will have to pay if this project doesn't go according to plan, my plan. And of course this is in a way to protect our dreams, because we may have a lot invested in this project. I mean, work is just an example, but it could be any kind of personal project as an example. Now, this protection of our dreams is actually key to maintaining a state of happiness and equilibrium in our lives. And the compensation legal system is based around protecting people from broken dreams or compensating them for broken dreams. And even the professional indemnity system that many have to invest in as professionals is actually a way of protecting themselves from other people's broken dreams. So a lot of the distress of humanity lies in the fact that we can't control every outcome. And I mean, we can see this just in things such as, you know, the weather around us, and of course how, you know, that's changing in incredible ways in recent times, and we have no control over that. Now that's just an example of one thing that is just not within our control. Now there may be arguments against that in terms of our contribution to climate change, etc., but for the purposes of this talk, weather generally is not in our control. So we can't control every outcome, but we have great anticipation when we invest ourselves in creating something or doing something or planning for something, and out of which we desire a certain expectation, or we expect a certain outcome from it, and we want that our desires become a reality ultimately. So in a sense, this is actually not inevitably, but many times is setting ourselves up for some kind of great disappointment or heartbreak of some description or another, great or small. And you might have found in your own experience that in proportion to our expectations, to that degree, we can be disappointed potentially in certain things that we have our sights on, or that we want to unfold a certain way according to our own plan and expectation. Now, of course, there's nothing wrong with a bit of foresight and forethought. In fact, we do need to plan and adjust our future actions accordingly, so that we can accommodate things that which we want to nurture into existence, or to see unfold in our experience. Because, you know, that's just an aspect of planning and organization and being a sort of functioning human being. However, the problem arises not in the planning and the organization and the investment of time and energy. It lies in our attachment to the outcomes. And so when we're really attached to something happening a certain way and not in another way, then of course what can happen is, if it doesn't turn out that way, or if there's an adjustment in the outcome that we're not expecting or we hadn't planned for, then what can happen is our control freak, our inner control freak, can be devastated. Our inner control freak can be irreversibly traumatized, and we are left in great disappointment, despair, heartache, and often misery, because our lives are just not going the way we had planned. So now this kind of inability to control all outcomes as human beings doesn't just extend to events or projects, as I mentioned, but it extends to people, places, and things. And when we do engage our inner control freak, of which we all have an element of to some degree or another, then those people, places, and things are rarely happy when they are attempted to be controlled by our inner control freak. So when we understand that our sphere of control as human beings is usually quite limited, especially, I mean, some of us may have a greater sphere of control in many different areas than others. However, ultimately, there are limits to what we can control and how we can manifest certain outcomes. So even the things we can control can be subject to variations and differences in how we expect things to actually perform or behave. So of course there is inconsistencies often in what we expect things to be and how things actually are in the end. But there's no problem with this if we don't bet the farm on it. But if we do, then again, we're lining ourselves up for great disappointment. So you may have experienced your own inner control freak at times, which defies all logic and wants things to be a certain way, your way. And when it isn't, then that control freak may end up having a control freak tantrum or getting into a control freak fight, or even worse. So you can see sometimes the control freak can get a bit out of control. So in an ideal world, whatever happens, happens. And if whatever happens is a consequence we weren't expecting, then so be it. However, this is not always everyone's reality, and of course is a lot easier said than done in many circumstances. So, how can we actually control our freak? How can we control our control freak? Now, it may sound a bit contradictory, controlling our control freak. However, this is something that actually can be done, and it can be done in a way that is experientially very, very uplifting. Now, one form of control that is allowed, that doesn't lead to disappointment and heartache in the end, is actually outlined to us in the Bhakti Yoga philosophy and culture and practice. And that is the control of love. So Bhakti Yoga is all about controlling through the modality of love. So Bhakti Yoga, in its culture and philosophy and practice, teaches us first to lovingly control our own mind and senses. And this is achieved through the chanting of the sacred Maha Mantra on a daily, regular basis, and also through the understanding of the Bhakti Yoga worldview. Now, in the Bhakti Yoga worldview, we come to understand that everything in existence has its place. Every person in existence has its place in the scheme of things and in the cosmos as we know it. So when we understand this, we're less inclined to be disappointed because we know that everything has a rhyme and a reason, and that things happen because they were meant to, and that everyone has a place in that divine outcome. So now that we have the mantra to control our mind and senses, which is something that occurs over time when practiced with sincerity and diligence, and when we have that worldview, then we're less inclined to behave like we are God. We don't have to be God anymore because we realize that everything is in its place and that all we can control is our own mind and senses. We can have dominion only over ourselves ultimately. So what a relief that is. It's not easy trying to be God. So thank God that He's taken over that burden for us to control things just as they were meant to be. Now instead, what we can focus on is what we can control. And that is to connect in divine loving union with God, with the Supreme Soul, through the medium of our own individual soul. And that is achieved through the mantra meditation that I spoke of, and also through the culture and lifestyle of Bhakti Yoga. So the love that I speak of, that connection of love between the individual soul and the Supreme Divine Soul, Krishna, as is known in the Bhakti Yoga philosophy and texts, and he also is known as God and has infinite other names. So that love I speak of is nothing new to you. You are actually the custodian of this love that resides eternally within you, within the realm of your own individual and unique soul. So what needs to happen, however, is that because we've forgotten about this love, the depth and the extent and profundity and the potential of this love within us, then we need to somehow reconnect and rediscover and embark on that journey towards loving connection with a Supreme Divine Soul, because over many, many lifetimes and infinite layers of coverings, this divine love that actually defines us and actually gives us the potency of who we are as spirit souls has been covered over, and we fail to recognize ourselves for the beings of great love that we truly are. So this love in your heart is, if you choose to, able to be channeled into divine connection, and that is the source of all of our potency as human beings, that connection of divine love. And the more we invest in it, the more we spend time and energy into cultivating and re-establishing this connection of divine love, then our own potency increases, our own potential and our own incredible resources as human beings are enhanced and enlivened through this connection. So Bhakti Yoga strips all of those coverings that I mentioned that have been there for lifetimes, millions of lifetimes, and it strips it all back, strips it bare, and reveals only what is left, which is our identities as beings of great love, the great love within our hearts that is designed to be united with the source of all love. And Bhakti Yoga is the process by which this can be achieved. It ultimately allows love to take over and run the show. So when love reigns supreme, then our lives look very, very different. Our control freak is subdued, and we allow only love of the highest order to control us and the outcomes that we so desire. So with this revelation of the love in our hearts, with this subduing of our inner control freak, then what happens is we gain a new heart of wisdom and understanding that ultimately takes us to a new world where we're controlled only by the sweet love that already resides within us. So your love is ultimately awakened from its long, deep slumber of forgetfulness. So now I'm going to chant the Maha Mantra, and you can chant along if you like, because this is really a starting place and also the end place, the ultimate destination of the life of a Bhakti yogi, one who wishes to reveal the love in their hearts and to connect it with a source of supreme love, Krishna, or God, as is also known. So we'll chant it together now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Bhakti Yoga is a bit like coffee for the soul. Try it, you'll love it, and soon you'll be needing your daily fix. So if you'd like to know more about Bhakti Yoga, please visit my website at New Heart-New World. There you'll find a lot more information on the Maha Mantra and also the culture, practice and philosophy of Bhakti Yoga and where to go to get even more information. So please stay tuned as there will be many more videos on the secrets and not so secrets of Bhakti Yoga coming up. So until then, I wish you all well. Bye for now.